Our good buddy Richard Haass, he's the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, summed up yesterday with 2 tweets. We thought we'd set the table this way. In the late afternoon, Richard first tweeted, "Today is ending considerably better than it started. What with 1, postponement of the Putin visit, 2, possible U.S.-EU trade truce, 3, Secretary Pompeo declaring U.S. will not recognize Russian annexation of Crimea, and 4, U.S. district judge ruling to allow emoluments case to proceed." Well, 2 hours later, Richard tweeted this. "I tweeted today had ended better than it began, ignoring Yogi's wisdom that it ain't over till it's over. Now some congressmen claiming to be conservatives have moved to impeach the Deputy Attorney General. I'm old enough to remember when conservatives stood for norms and the rule of law." So, with that as the backdrop, thank you, Richard Haass. We'll start right there. A group of Republicans in the House have introduced articles of impeachment against Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein in connection to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe into Russia's election interference. The resolution, introduced by Chairman of the House Freedom Caucus Mark Meadows, along with fellow Freedom Caucus member Jim Jordan and 9 other co-sponsors, accuses Rosenstein of trying to block congressional oversight of Mueller's investigation. They claim the deputy AG has withheld documents from and made misleading statements to Congress on the matter. A spokesman for Meadows tells NBC News the resolution is not considered a privileged motion. That means whether it eventually comes up for a floor vote is now in the hands of the Republican leadership. Last week, House Speaker Paul Ryan said Rosenstein should be allowed to finish his investigation. But last night, Meadows suggested lawmakers can go around the Speaker to impeach Rod Rosenstein.
We hope that it doesn't have to come to that. Obviously, this is the first step tonight, but it doesn't require consent from the Speaker. And quite frankly, it's either we hold them in contempt or we get the documents or we impeach him. And the only thing that we have control over is the ability to bring impeachment straight to the floor.
So last night, in reaction, top Democrats on the House Judiciary Oversight and Intel Committees released a joint statement reading, "This resolution to impeach Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is a direct attack on the special counsel's investigation, full stop. To date, Special Counsel Mueller has obtained 30 indictments and 5 guilty pleas against a group that includes 4 Trump campaign officials and 26 Russian nationals. The president should not mistake this move by his congressional enablers as a pretext to take any action against Mr. Rosenstein or Mr. Mueller and his investigation." So, Casey, what is the Freedom Caucus up to here? Obviously, they've been a thorn in the side of Rosenstein. We saw it in that congressional hearing. Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows were very tough on him that day. Didn't push it far enough in parliamentary terms to force a vote on impeachment for Rod Rosenstein. So are they just sending a message at this point, or do they mean it?
Yeah, and I mean, think about how this would actually have to work. There would have to be 218 people that would vote to impeach him. That's literally never going to happen. I mean, I get text messages all day long from Republican members of Congress that I talk to regularly who maybe they don't want to be out there criticizing Mark Meadows and the Freedom Caucus in public, but in private, they all are defending this investigation and Rod Rosenstein. And some of them are starting to say it more publicly in statements as well. So, first of all, I don't think this is a legitimate possibility, at least not in the way that they did it. And in fact, the reality that this isn't quote unquote privilege, I mean, that's kind of congressional speak for essentially they're not forcing leadership's hand. So they took one step back to away from this. But at the same time, they are sending a signal to the White House. I think that's what you saw in that Democratic statement, essentially saying, look, don't view this, Mr. President, as license to go ahead and do this and think that it's going to be okay.
And is this a way, Jeremy, for Republicans who are against the Mueller investigation and want to protect the president to get one step closer to Bob Mueller if they believe somehow they can remove Rod Rosenstein?
Well, that may be their ultimate objective. But look, let's take a broader look at this. Helsinki was an unmitigated disaster from a foreign policy perspective and also politically for Republicans on the Hill. And now you have the Republican Party essentially split. If you look at the Republicans on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I know we're going to talk about this, who are questioning Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, they were aligned with Democrats saying our foreign policy vis-a-vis Russia is a disaster. It's suspiciously so. And they were harshly critical of the president. And so here we have House Republicans needing, I think, a key distraction from the events of this week. And so they roll out these articles of impeachment, which are really no more than a press release. It's going nowhere.
So let's, Rick, look at a new poll that shows a majority of Americans do not believe the FBI is unfair to the president. According to the latest NPR PBS NewsHour Marist poll, 6 in 10 registered voters say the FBI just trying to do its job. A third of voters say the Bureau is biased against the Trump administration. But among Republicans, 37% believe the FBI is just doing its job. A little over half, 55%, say the Bureau is biased against the administration. So the Freedom Caucus members perhaps believe they have some cover among their own voters, Rick.
Well, they do, but the problem is they are making it worse for voters who are in swing districts who are trying to hold on to their seats. Look, this is nothing more than the PR stunt. This is designed to undermine the Mueller investigation. They have no reason to acquire these documents. Right now. I've always believed that Congress has oversight over the executive branch, and they should have oversight over the executive branch, but not during an active investigation. They have their own investigatory powers, and they can, in hindsight, when the Mueller investigation is incomplete, they can go and review all these things and see if things were done properly. But to do it now, to have these documents, which means they will get out into the public, which will undermine the investigation, and that's simply what it's designed to do. And while it might help Jim Jordan and Mark Meadows in their particular districts, because their districts are probably frustrated that, you know, we got to do something. You got to do something. So impeaching Rosenstein seems to be a way out, but I don't think it helps the Republican caucus as a whole.
And again, Susan, as we take a step back, a point we've made many times, the idea that Rod Rosenstein, appointed by this president, is part of some great some great conspiracy to take down Donald Trump, defies belief.
Yeah, it's absurd. And let's not forget, there's also not a number 3 there. So if they get rid of Rod Rosenstein, who will they replace him with? They can't get someone through the Senate. But putting that all aside, I agree with Rick. This is a PR stunt. This is like a little goodbye gift to Donald Trump. They're leaving for a month. They're going into recess, so nothing's going to happen. And they just kind of threw this out there as their last hurrah in D.C. to get, like, hit all the Fox shows, I guess, for the next 24 hours.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.